Adam, just maybe take us through the mindset of an athlete with the opening night, just 8 days away, 2 more preseason games. Are you just kind of itching to chomp at the bit here?
Yeah, I mean, it gets exciting. Camp, I think we've had a good training camp, and it always tends to feel like it drags on a bit, Once you get back, you get the captain skates and get into training camp practice, those sort of things. Get a couple games in, and, you're kind of just wanting to get to the real thing. So, I think it's you got to have the mindset to get a good week of work in here still. So there's still plenty of time to work on things and get to where we'd like to be to start the season.
Something you and your teammates have commonly mentioned is getting off to a better start. We know how the last couple of starts have been here. Gauging compared to this point last year to this point now, how do you kind of feel about the team?
Good. Yeah, really good. Like I said, I think camp's been good. I think there's been high pace to it. I think that mental side of the game is already there for us, as far as just working. And as we get further and further in, we talk about details and systems and run sort of through all that kind of stuff. But that baseline of just work is there, and I think everybody feels pretty good going in. And like I said, we still got just over a week here to go, and good opportunities to get more work in.
So are you a center or a left winger?
Both.
You'll play wherever they.
He had me on right one day too. We didn't have any line rush, so wherever.
At what point in your career do you still consider yourself a center? You played center most.
Yeah, I mean mostly, but both. I think there's a lot of guys in here that can play center and play wing, and we've seen guys moving back and forth, and you got to be ready to be able to play both. Really the differences are just small things and small details on face-offs and systems things and that sort of stuff. And
centers always say they work much harder than wingers going north, south, up and down. Is that not true?
It's true. It's true. Oh yeah. They're always looking for the centerman, the first guy back low. The winger never wants to go down there. So you play with 2 centermen, you take half the night off, I think. So. But no, I do think we have a lot of guys that can play in the middle, can play the wing. And anytime, even early in my career, play with other centermen, and you can kind of get that trade-off, and you have that trust for that guy to be down low, where you don't have to worry about it, every single time.
So I read you could work out better this summer after the year before with the injuries. What did you work on? What did you figure you had to work on this summer? As you get older, you change your training?
No, I mean, nothing's changed. You just continue to build. The year before going in with an injury, you have to kind of be aware of that and work around it a little bit. And so, anytime you can go into an off-season healthy is always great. And then you just try to continue to build. I think as you get older, you always want to have that kind of the good first impression coming in no matter what. I've always said that my whole career. You want to come in, whether you're a young guy, older guy, in the middle, or wherever you're at on your contract, all sorts of things. You want to have a good first impression. I think that starts with just being in shape and being prepared, to handle whatever's thrown at you in training camp and early in the season.
So Chris said early in camp he'd like a defined third line that it was more of a checking with some physicality. Do you think that's what the Oilers have been lacking, just as opposed to here's the guys in the top 6 and here's the other guys that will figure?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, lacking. I think there's guys that you always figure out the roles and your role within the group, depending on how things kind of unfold. And again, I think maybe I'm sure that would be clarified a bit going in if that's a role of certain guys, and whether you're playing top 6, you're playing bottom 6, or PK, I think it's important to have those roles within the group established to find your way. I think we got a lot of skill. We got young kids that are pushing and looking good, and everybody in between too. So, I think as you go, those roles kind of get defined, and you have to have pride in those roles, especially when you're a team that, with the aspirations that we have. Those can be difference makers, I think, throughout a season.
So when you saw Florida's quasi-third line last year contributing offensively, was that something you noticed and said, oh, it wasn't just their big guns, they were getting lots of production out of
Yeah, I mean, you always want to get production through the entire lineup. Third, fourth line guys chipping in, and again, that can be the difference maker. So, I mean, both years you can get that depth scoring. It can be a big difference down the road.
What do you think of the coaches' outfits?
Yeah.
Distracted.
No comment.
They look like they're
No
biohazard or
comment.
fading.
Yeah, there's something. Just stay away from those guys. But we'll maybe go back to the drawing board.
Out of one question on the young players, you mentioned the young players. What's it like having them? Do they kind of give you a fresh breath of renewal here?
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, you see them come in and work it and having fun and enjoying it, and sometimes you think back to when I was first coming in and how the league was and the guys that you looked up to and that sort of thing. So like I said, I think we got a good group in there. I think the guys are all meshing well together, and I think we'll continue to do that as we get into the season.